The story begins inside a luxurious VIP delivery room where a woman is casually flipping through a magazine, waiting to give birth. But her patience snaps, and she angrily yells at the nurses to hurry up and get the baby out, all while still focused on her magazine. Moments later, the sound of a baby's cry fills the room. A staff member rushes out, joyfully congratulating the grandfather. Guests gather around, offering their congratulations to Mr. Liu, who thanks them graciously for their kindness. Curious, he asks one of the maids about Shikuan's whereabouts, only to hear that the young master is busy handling something on Earth. His expression darkens immediately, furious at his son's absence and calling him a worthless good-for-nothing. Suddenly, a strange, piercing scream echoes from inside the delivery room, leaving everyone startled and uneasy. Mr. Liu quickly stands up, anxious, and demands to know what is happening inside. Inside the room, the mother's eyes widen in shock as a blinding light bursts forth. When the grandfather and his attendants rush in, they are stunned, frozen in disbelief. The dazzling light is coming from the newborn itself, his tiny body wrapped in arcs of golden lightning. To everyone else, it's a miracle, but to the baby, it's something else entirely. In his mind, he smirks, thinking no one would ever believe that a simple commoner like him would be reborn into such a powerful family, awakening with a divine sense. A system screen flickers before his eyes, confirming the activation of a lightning-type divine sense, already reaching sea-level power. The grandfather can hardly believe what he is witnessing. His grandson is born with an innate power he himself could never achieve. His cane slips from his hand as he shouts in astonishment about this unmatched divine talent. Overcome with joy, he lifts the newborn high and declares to all present that the Liu clan has given birth to a once-in-a-generation prodigy. Yet deep inside, the baby harbors his own ambition. He vows to seize everything from this clan and make sure his so-called father never gets another chance at life. Meanwhile, the maids whisper among themselves, amazed that the young master is smiling instead of crying, an omen, they say, of an extraordinary destiny. The elder proudly vows to dedicate the full strength of the clan to raising this child. Yet, our protagonist's mind, thoughts stir. He reflects on the past 6 months since being killed by that vile scumbag, still feeling as if it were all a dream. Just a month ago he was killed by her husband. And reborn as her baby in her belly, she who was now his mother had been drinking a special tonic prepared by one of her loyal maids. The moment the liquid touched her lips, a powerful golden glow began to radiate from her body. Because of this, he gained an extraordinary gift, an accelerated growth ability, and astonishingly, he had already reached D rank even while still in the womb. He couldn't help but marvel at how vast the difference was between powerful clans and commoners. Ordinary people would risk their very lives for the strength he now casually possessed before even being born. But this ability puzzled him. Accelerated growth? There were no known records of such an ability. 2 months later, he found himself in the middle of a dangerous absorption crisis caused by the mother's original embryo. But fortune favored him. Using his accelerated growth, he consumed the original embryo completely and absorbed its power, gaining an innate lightning-type divine sense. Lightning, a rare and formidable element. The thought thrilled him. He vowed to take full advantage of his family's endless resources, nurturing his own body and power until he stood at the very peak. 3 months later, his lightning divine sense had already advanced to an intermediate stage. Meanwhile, an entirely different scene unfolded in the world outside his tiny sanctuary. Women's high heels and scattered underwear littered the floor of his mother's bedroom. On the bed, tangled feet and warm whispers filled the air. His mother lay there with a blonde-haired man, unbothered by the fact she was carrying a child. The man questioned her nervously, asking if she wasn't afraid. She responded coolly, saying her marriage was nothing but a political arrangement. Yet, inside her womb, the fetus, our protagonist, heard everything. The blonde-haired man doubted if the child was even his while the woman ignored his words and passionately urged him to keep going. The noise and chaos of his mother and her secret lover shook the unborn child's energy. Absorption, frustrating him deeply. In irritation, he released a burst of energy that made his mother gasp, complaining it burned her from the inside. By the 6th month, his power had already reached peak D rank, and he came to fully understand the unique constitution of his mother. One day, a handsome man stood silently, gazing at the woman's belly, impatience in his eyes as he wondered when the child would finally be born. From within, the unborn child opened his eyes and glared at the man with seething hatred. His mind branded the man as nothing more than a filthy mutt. Suddenly, a memory from his previous life flashed before him. He recalled the day he was warned about terrifying beasts. One of his comrades, gravely injured, had pleaded with him, calling him Brother Liu, to escape while he still could. The companion cried for help, trapped and desperate, but all the young man could do was stand and watch. That day, his friend was torn apart by a monstrous creature, his screams echoing as the beast devoured him whole, while Liu stood frozen, watching every moment. With a twisted grin, the traitor gives the order, feed the beast and form the spirit core. His eyes gleam with malice as he watches the scene, enjoying every second of his victim's despair. In that moment, the young man notices it, a massive spike hurtling toward him with deadly intent. Before he can react, his former companion drives a huge branch straight through his chest, lifting him into the air without an ounce of mercy. He looks down at the gaping wound, unable to comprehend the betrayal he's just suffered. Laughter erupts from the scumbag, sharp and mocking, echoing in the air as he revels in the moment. He sneers, saying this is what happens when fools overestimate their own strength. The young man is thrown aside like garbage, his body broken. With fading strength, he accuses the traitor of using him as nothing more than bait to feed the beasts. As darkness closes in, only one thought grips his mind: what will become of his little sisters? Memories rush back, him saying goodbye to one of them, promising he would return soon. He recalls grabbing his weapon and stepping out for what seemed like just another mission, leaving behind 3 innocent girls waiting in that small house. That night, under the pale glow of the moon, the sisters stared through the window, whispering to each other about when their big brother would finally come home. Back in the present, within the womb, the reborn protagonist seethes with rage. His heart burns with a single vow: to destroy the one who tore him away from his family. Gathering his energy, even as a fetus, he focuses his power and launches a devastating punch toward the outside. The blow connects, slamming into his so-called father's face with a force no one could have expected. The man is flung backward, crashing to the ground in agony, utterly stunned by the invisible strike. After that, the mother gasped in pain as the child in her belly suddenly started kicking from inside. Meanwhile, the traitorous father writhes on the floor, clutching his face, still unable to comprehend what just happened. The woman groans in frustration, complaining that the child is already causing trouble before even being born. Concerned, the grandfather quickly orders the nurse to check what is going on inside the delivery room. The nurse hesitates for a moment, then explains that the young master's talent is extraordinary, which has caused his development to accelerate far beyond normal. Suddenly, she stops mid-sentence, shocked as she realizes the baby is about to be born. The mother, writhing in pain, screams for someone to summon the best delivery team immediately. Inside the womb, the boy laments, thinking about how in his past life his strength had only reached peak D level, and now, even before birth, he is already on the edge of a breakthrough. A month later, the Liu family hosts a grand banquet in celebration of the newborn. Influential families from across southern Shao arrive with extravagant gifts, eager to honor the clan's future heir. Amid the festivities, the grandfather sits quietly, watching a violin performance with a maid standing at his side. Meanwhile, the 1-month-old protagonist rests peacefully in the arms of another maid, completely calm despite the noisy celebration. A guest steps forward, congratulating Master Leo on his grandson. The elder nods politely, though his thoughts seem far away. Another guest approaches the boy's father, offering him congratulations as well. But the infant's sharp gaze locks onto that man, the same man who betrayed him in his past life. Anger wells up within the baby. This is the very person who tore him away from his sisters. Right there and then, he silently vows revenge. Memories flood back. His little sisters' faces beam with joy as they prepare to share a small birthday cake, their eyes sparkling with excitement. In his past life, he had been on the phone with Brother Chen, who was impatient and scolding him for being late to a mission. He apologized, but Chen only scoffed, secretly thinking he'd hired him just because rumors claimed he was desperate for money. Chen advised him to use his brain better, and the young man thanked him for the job opportunity anyway. Back home, his sisters waited eagerly for him to return so they could finally taste the cake. He had said goodbye to one of them, promising he'd only be gone for work and would be back soon. With that, he grabbed the weapon stored in his bag and stepped out, leaving the 3 little girls alone, waiting anxiously for his return. That night, they sat by the window, looking at the moon, whispering their wish for their big brother to come home quickly. Elsewhere, in a shadowy forest, a mysterious glowing portal shimmers. A man approaches, cigarette dangling from his lips. It's the same man who had congratulated young Master Ji earlier at the banquet, young Master Ji himself, the apparent leader of some dangerous, secretive operation. Surrounded by his loyal subordinates, young Master Ji calmly asks about the progress of their mission. One of his men quickly reports that they've been inside for some time and the beasts should be well fed by now. Pleased, young Master Ji compliments old Chen, praising how efficiently he works and noting he must have been raised well. Turning to the woman beside him, he states that this entire trip was done for her sake. But she only scoffs, mocking him as nothing more than another lowlife from the Ji family, desperate to climb the social ladder. Ignoring the insult, the group of traitors heads toward the glowing portal, preparing to leave that barren, desolate place behind. Meanwhile, in another part of the wasteland, one of the hero's companions urgently warns him of a dangerous beast nearby. To their surprise, young Master Ji is informed someone has survived the earlier massacre, something he didn't expect. He smirks, mentioning that more food will be useful for their medicine. Old Chen frowns, confused, explaining that everyone they encountered was only D-level soldiers. How could anyone still be alive? Suddenly, a deafening noise echoes through the area, drawing every eye in one direction. Their leader's expression hardens as he assesses the situation. Soon, the source of the commotion is revealed, a beast with a fresh wound in its leg, glaring at a lone figure. There he is, the young man, battered and exhausted, standing his ground for what might be his final battle. One of the traders cautiously steps forward, but young Master Ji demands to know who dared injure his beast. Then his eyes widen in recognition. He knows the survivor. Yen, he says in shock. The young man turns his head, confused, calling out to brother Chen, still trying to understand what's happening. Chen's friend nervously asks if he had brought reinforcements, and in a panic, several enemies scatter and flee from the scene. Back in the present timeline, the reborn baby clenches his tiny fists, vowing to avenge that deep blood feud. He reaches his arms out, making soft baby noises at the trader now standing in front of him. The man freezes, speechless, unable to comprehend what the child wants. The baby's father proudly explains that his son wants to be held, calling it the greatest honor of his life. With that, the trader cautiously picks up the child, even thanking him for what he calls an unexpected reward. The little one lets out a pretend cry, masking his true intention. In an instant, yellow lightning energy bursts from his tiny body, shocking the trader with a surge of power. The man screams in agony as electricity courses through him, forcing his hands to release their grip. The baby falls hard onto the mansion's floor, the loud thud drawing gasps from the women at the party and halting the music mid-performance. All eyes turn toward the scene. The grandfather watches silently, his expression unreadable, while the baby's parents stand frozen, shocked at what just unfolded. On the floor, the child immediately cries loudly, keeping up his innocent facade and fooling everyone around him. The trader, now drenched in cold sweat, trembles in panic, realizing how badly things have gone wrong. Terrified by what had just happened, the trader freezes in fear. The grandfather's face twists in rage as he shouts, furious that someone dared to drop the Liu family's precious heir on the floor. The coward immediately throws himself down, groveling at their feet. He desperately claims it wasn't his fault, insisting the young master moved on his own. But the baby's father doesn't believe a word. With a glare filled with contempt, he delivers a brutal kick to the man's chest, calling him nothing but a dog. The impact sends the trader crashing across the marble floor, groaning in pain. Crawling on his hands and knees, he begs for forgiveness, swearing he would never harm the boy intentionally. As proof of loyalty, he even offers up his treasures to ensure the young master's injuries are treated. But instead of sympathy, the baby's father gives him a cold, mocking smile, clearly enjoying his humiliation. With an icy tone, he orders the guards to drag the man outside and give him a proper beating. Pathetically, the trader thanks him for the punishment, trembling as the guard sees him. Meanwhile, a maid carefully lifts the baby back into her arms. Hidden against her shoulder, the infant protagonist curls his lips into an evil, satisfied smirk at how perfectly his little plan worked. The trader, now bruised and dazed, stares in confusion, unable to comprehend how everything had spiraled so quickly. But the clever child immediately starts wailing again, crying loudly to maintain his perfect innocent facade. The old trader stumbles in shock, unable to believe the child switched back to crying so easily. The grandfather wastes no time, ordering the maid to take the young master inside and check if he suffered any injuries from the fall. Once the child is taken away, the elder turns his cold gaze to his son, sharply criticizing him. With their family status, he says, there's no need to keep worthless bums around. His words sting deeply, and with a dismissive snort, the patriarch storms out of the party, furious at the disgraceful scene. The boy's father clenches a wine glass so hard in his grip that it shatters in his bare hand, blood dripping from his palm. His rage boils over as he lashes out, delivering a brutal kick straight into the trader's face. Not stopping there, he kicks him again before ordering the guards to drag him outside and feed him to the house dogs. The trader's pleas for mercy fall on deaf ears as he's hauled away like trash. The host then calmly tells the stunned guests to continue enjoying the party, while the baby quietly plans how to absorb more power and grow stronger. A doctor is summoned to examine the infant, quickly confirming that the child's body is incredibly resilient and perfectly unharmed. Hearing this, the grandfather bursts into laughter, proudly celebrating that his grandson is safe and strong. But for the young protagonist, there is something far more important than family pride, finding the 3 sisters he left behind in his previous life. He knows he must grow quickly, fast enough to move on his own and claim the essence he needs. For now, though, he begins crying for milk, signaling for nourishment. The elder immediately orders the daughter-in-law to breastfeed the child and ensure she consumes more spiritual medicine to improve her health. The mother, exhausted and pale, complains that she had just fed him moments ago. Still, the patriarch is unmoved, sternly telling her that she must endure this hardship for the sake of the clan and their heir. With visible frustration, she removes her coat and picks up the child, preparing to feed him once again against her will. As she stares down at her son with tired, red eyes, she begins to breastfeed him. But even through her fatigue, she can't help but groan in pain, complaining that the little rascal is sucking far too hard. Seeing his daughter-in-law becoming pale and weak, the grandfather immediately orders tonic soup to be brought for her nourishment. Soon after, the scene shifts to a hot spring where the baby is bathing with his mother. She sighs in exhaustion, complaining that he's been feeding endlessly and jokingly asks if she must have owed him a debt in a past life. 3 months pass, and the baby has grown rapidly, now crawling all over the house with surprising speed. His power has already reached sea level, a pace that astonishes even him. In his previous life, reaching such strength took him an entire year, advancing from elementary D level to intermediate only after surviving dangerous portal missions and suffering numerous injuries. But this time, drinking his mother's milk has pushed him from elementary C level to intermediate in just 3 short months. During one family dinner, the little protagonist crawls determinedly toward the main table. The grandfather, irritated, scolds the staff for letting the heir roam freely. The maid quickly apologizes, explaining that the boy crawls so fast she can't keep up with him. The baby's father jokes that his son must simply want more milk, while the mother looks drained and complains she's been breastfeeding nonstop for 3 months without rest. But in the baby's mind, he's focused, there's no time to waste, he must keep getting stronger, no matter what. To everyone's shock, the infant suddenly stands up on his own, wobbling but steady. The grandfather and butler stare wide-eyed at this incredible sight. Then, to their amazement, he begins walking, his tiny feet taking steps toward his stunned mother. Without warning, he leaps at her, making her yelp as she scolded him, begging to at least let her eat one meal in peace. The maid, stunned, exclaims that the young master is standing and walking by himself, while the butler remarks on the child's extraordinary celestial constitution. The grandfather beams with pride, pleased beyond words by his grandson's rapid development. He then declares it is time to follow family tradition, selecting a personal servant for the boy. In a dark chamber, preparations are underway for the selection. The elder in charge asks for an update, and a guard reports that only 2 candidates remain. Soon, the protagonist, nestled in his mother's arms, is brought to an improvised arena where the final test will take place. He watches carefully, but then freezes, his eyes widening in shock. Among the candidates, he recognizes one of them. Inside the arena, a small girl with white hair stands in a defensive stance, her expression filled with fear. Opposite her, a blonde girl charges aggressively, shouting as she prepares to strike. The baby's mind races, what is she doing here? His body reacts instinctively, glowing with intense light as he activates his lightning-type divine power. In an instant, a bolt of energy arcs out, striking the blonde fighter. She is blasted off her feet, crashing to the ground and knocked out cold, leaving everyone stunned by the unexpected display. The white-haired girl wastes no time, lunging forward and snatching up the bread. Without hesitation, she devours it hungrily, crouched in the middle of the cell as if the world around her doesn't exist. Watching from his crib, the baby protagonist stiffens in panic, praying no one notices anything strange about what just happened. But instead of suspicion, the grandfather bursts into hearty laughter, declaring that his grandson has far more fighting spirit than his own father ever did. The baby sighs in relief, thinking that being a child definitely has its perks, adults always find a way to excuse his behavior. The elder then decides on the spot that the little girl will serve as the young master's personal attendant. He orders that she be cleaned up and taught proper etiquette. The girl, however, doesn't seem to care about appearances, still eating ferociously as though nothing else matters. Meanwhile, the baby beams happily from his crib, calling out to his new servant with a wide grin. The butler steps forward, explaining the details of her role. She is a death servant, meaning her sole purpose is to protect the young master at any cost. The white-haired girl simply nods, silently accepting her new fate. The butler added that she needed to follow the master constantly and train in martial arts while her master slept. Soon after, the butler left, closing the door while the girl stayed in the baby's room to begin her new duties. The young protagonist excitedly calls to her and points at himself with a big, innocent smile. But instead of showing loyalty, she pulls out a knife, her expression twisting into one of pure hatred and vengeance. The baby freezes in panic, struggling to speak but unable to make more than baby sounds. The girl hisses through clenched teeth that she will end his life to avenge her older brother's death. With a sharp movement, she lunges, knife poised to strike the defenseless infant. But in a shocking display of agility, the baby dodges the blow, leaping out of the crib and leaving behind a shimmering energy afterimage. The girl's eyes widen in disbelief as he suddenly reappears at her side, moving far faster than she ever imagined a newborn could. As she regains her stance, a green aura bursts from her body, wind energy swirling around her. The protagonist is stunned to realize she wields a rare wind-type divine sense. She charges, wind slicing through the air, but he reacts instantly, summoning his lightning power to defend himself. The clash of wind and lightning fills the room with dazzling flashes of color, the energies colliding in a blinding storm. Inside, the baby grits his teeth, thinking how overwhelming it is to use this much power in such a fragile body. Suddenly, an idea sparks in his mind. Instead of overpowering her, he channels his thunder divine sense at the lowest possible level, forming a tiny lightning spear. It strikes her directly, sending a surge through her body that paralyzes her on the spot. The girl collapses to the ground, her body trembling as the electricity still dances across her nerves. The baby breathes a sigh of relief, though visibly exhausted from the effort. Meanwhile, the girl lies there, stunned, her body still twitching from the electric shock. The baby approaches cautiously, reaching for the sharp edge of the knife. With deliberate intent, he pricks his tiny finger, letting a single drop of blood roll down. Using it, he quickly scrawls a message on the floor, proud of his quick thinking and ability to communicate despite his limitations. The white-haired girl glances down and stares at the message, finally understanding its meaning. The baby then stretches his arms wide, signaling for a hug, hoping to show he means no harm. But she charges at him again. Only then does he remember, she can't read yet. Dodging swiftly, he panics, knowing that if anyone sees her attacking him, her fate will be sealed. Meanwhile, down the hall, the traitor walks through the mansion holding a wooden box tightly in his hands. A flashback plays in his mind, the man coldly telling him that he's only alive because he's still useful. Grateful yet humiliated, the man had bowed, thanking the young master for his mercy and vowing to work harder. He had spent everything he owned to buy a rare item at auction, desperate to earn the baby's favor and save his own skin. Now, as he nears the nursery, he hears the sound of the young master's voice and pauses, curiosity sparking. What could be happening inside? Pushing the door open, he steps in, calling out the name of the Liu family heir. But the sight before him makes him freeze. The baby and the girl are darting around the room, chasing one another in chaos. Sensing an opportunity, the infant protagonist's eyes darken with a cunning glint. A plan forms instantly. Grabbing the servant's hand mid-swing, he redirects the knife, channeling a surge of lightning directly into her forehead. The shock makes her body seize, and she collapses onto the rug, unconscious. Seizing the moment, the baby snatches the falling knife from the air and, without hesitation, plunges it into his own shoulder. Blood sprays as he completes his twisted yet perfect setup. The traitor stares in shock, unable to comprehend what he's seeing, and screams in terror. The baby then tosses the bloody knife directly at him. Instinctively, the man catches it, staring in horror at the blood-stained blade now in his hand. In his shock, he fumbles, dropping the precious wooden box he had brought as an offering. The baby, not wasting a second, takes a deep breath and unleashes a loud, heart-wrenching wail, collapsing dramatically on top of the unconscious girl. By the time the others rush into the room, led by the grandfather, the traitor is standing there, trembling, holding a bloodied knife, the white-haired servant unconscious on the floor, and the baby crying in pain. The elder and his son stand frozen, their faces tense as they take in the chaotic scene. The baby keeps up his loud crying, clinging to the fainted servant as if shielding her. The grandfather's fury erupts instantly. He points at the traitor, accusing him of daring to attack the Liu family heir. In a panic, the man throws the bloody knife to the floor and desperately tries to defend himself, insisting it's not what it looks like. But the baby's father doesn't buy it. His fist connects with the man's face, knocking him back as he roars about harming his son. Choking back panic, the traitor blurts out that the girl was the one who attacked, and he only acted to protect the baby. Still, the infant keeps up his tearful performance, while the accused man bleeds and pleads, his voice breaking with desperation. He swears to the elder he's telling the truth, but his words fall on deaf ears. The father's patience snaps again, another punch lands squarely on the man's jaw, followed by a furious demand, "Where's the gift you brought?" Scrambling, the traitor searches frantically for the box he had dropped amid the chaos. Meanwhile, the elder praised the unconscious white-haired girl for risking her life to protect his grandson, and orders the staff to take her away and let her rest. Placing a heavy hand on his own son's shoulder, the elder glares, his crimson eyes burning with rage. His voice drips with contempt as he says he taught his son how to raise dogs, yet he nearly lost the family's greatest hope because of one. As everyone leaves the room, the traitor remains kneeling, trembling as a cold sweat breaks across his forehead. The baby's father stops at the doorway and throws one last look of pure hatred and disgust. He kicks the man to the ground, spitting out, "I gave you a chance, and you still dared to betray me." With one sharp command, he orders the man to be dragged out and fed to the dogs. In his crib, the infant protagonist finally exhales in relief. His plan worked flawlessly. But then his eyes shift to the unconscious servant, worry flickering across his face. The butler steps in, announcing he must take the girl for treatment. Panic grips the baby as he remembers, the message he wrote in blood is still beneath her. He throws himself across her body and shakes his head furiously, trying to stop the butler. Instead, the staff simply lifts the young master away and places him gently back into his crib. The boy's eyes dart nervously as he debates shocking the butler with lightning to keep him from seeing the message. But then, an idea strikes him, and he glances toward the maid, silently forming a backup plan. The butler lifts the servant, revealing an unexpected pool of blood beneath her. The baby freezes in shock. She's not just acting, she's truly hurt. Even the butler hesitates, taken aback by the blood soaking her clothes. Confused, the infant wonders how she could have been injured for real. Still, the butler hurries her out of the room and orders the mess cleaned immediately. Alone now, the boy lies back in his crib, releasing a long breath of relief, though his mind lingers on the unanswered questions. For now, though, he pushes it aside. He has more important things to do. He leaps out of the crib, ready to set his next plan in motion. In another room, warm oil is being prepared for his mother, who enjoys a rare moment of peace as one of the maids massages her back. The calm doesn't last long. Her relaxation is shattered by the sound of her baby calling for milk again. The little one crawls straight to her, earning an exhausted groan as she complains about his relentless appetite. She cradles him anyway, but sighs, asking how long he plans to keep feeding like this. The baby ignores her frustration. He needs strength, and fast. Every sip is one step closer to speaking, one step closer to explaining everything to his servant and continuing his revenge plan. That's it for today. This is just the beginning, so hit subscribe for part 2. And stay tuned, see you in the next video. Until then, watch these 4 recaps on my channel.